Bitcoin billionaire and founder of MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, was charged with tax fraud in DC. Today I'm going to tell you about the case and how you can prepare yourself to reduce taxes legally and how not to engage in tax evasion. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to throw in a few countries where you can move to reduce your taxes legally. Some really great places, so make sure you watch this whole video. Now, Michael Saylor, a very controversial figure, a very prominent figure. He is a billionaire. Now, this case was just decided recently, okay, and it was decided in DC. It's quite interesting because Michael Saylor was really openly promoting tax evasion. I mean, allegedly was promoting it to like friends. You know, he talked about it, how he just wanted to do it, and so he didn't even keep it a secret. What about the fine? If you look at that, $40 million in fine. Is that a lot for someone with such a huge net worth? Because he's worth billions of dollars, right? So technically speaking, the amount that he was fined is almost nothing. If you take a look at the net worth, let's say your net worth is $1 billion, a fine of say 40 million is just about 4% of that. You know, so if you have multiple billions, it's actually just a drop in the ocean. And from what we can see, that he won't be sent to jail. That's another really important point. I mean, we haven't really heard that yet. We'll see what happens or if the case will be revised, but probably not, unless he, you know, tries to dispute it. Then something might happen and the outcome could be different. But so far, it's just a $40 million fine for Michael Saylor. How does this affect you? Because a lot of you guys watching this video are actually into crypto, and a lot of you guys are looking to ways to minimize your taxes legally. One thing that I recommend, okay, no matter where you're located, and especially in the US and especially in Canada, because these two governments are the strictest. They are very tyrannic, okay? They don't let you go. It's just a matter of fact, you won't get away with it. Even if you think you will, don't do it. You won't get away with it. Even if you get away with it for a little bit, maybe not forever. And eventually, the chickens will come home to roost. And in Michael Saylor's case, the chickens have come home to roost already. What's important here is that, and this is just something that I see from personal observation, and this is based on the people who are being charged with tax fraud in the US. It's usually people with a significant, you know, net worth. At least those are the people you hear about in the media. However, there are people that also get fined and potentially jailed, you know, for much less. But most people that you hear about, they're actually pretty big players, you know, like billionaires or, you know, like multi-millionaires, right? So people with a substantial net worth. But you still want to avoid this, okay? And if you're an American and you're watching this video, you want to reduce your taxes legally, what you can do is you can move out of the US. That's one of the things that you can do. And there is a list of requirements for you to follow. This is not an instantaneous achievement, you know, to do. There are really a lot of requirements. And if you have lived in the US now for already a few months this year, you will probably not be able to leave, okay? Now the question is, what can you do if you're an American and you want to reduce your taxes legally? And we've talked about the concepts of tax avoidance, which is legal, and tax evasion, which is illegal. So basically tax avoidance, what you do when you're involved in tax avoidance is that you find legitimate loopholes, legitimate tax codes to implement where you can avoid paying taxes. Potentially, you can delay taxes. You know, there's certain things you can do. Tax avoidance is where you purposely attempt to screw over the local authorities. And in America, that's the IRS. That is illegal. The letter is illegal. You don't want to do that, okay? Now, if you're an American, you want to move abroad, there are a couple things you can do, okay? As I've said already throughout other videos, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you get residency in a foreign country first. And you can't really spend a whole lot of time in a country. And in the US, certain tax laws, they override another, or sometimes there are two that apply. There are a lot of things here to consider, really. It's a very complicated tax code. So I do recommend that you consult with a licensed tax attorney in the US to get the exact information that is current for your specific case. So please do that. But if you are abroad, okay, what you can do, you get residency in a country, and we're going to get to these countries where the countries where you're going to be living in, they don't tax you on overseas income, on foreign source income. And we're going to get to this in a moment. So make sure you watch this whole video. But there'll be the first step. You go there and you sign up, you register, you get a residency. There's a legal process involved to do that. And this is dependent, you know, there are more factors depending on each country. That's the first thing you want to do. And then you want to inform the IRS that you're gone, okay? You want to inform them you don't live in America anymore. That's another thing you want to do. Then the third thing is that there is a concept called the Foreign Earned Income Exclusion, the FEIE, okay, Foreign Earned Income Exclusion, which says that if you're an American abroad, you may qualify for a certain amount of free allowance each year. It's an exclusion, right? It's a Foreign Earned Income Exclusion. And this amount right now for this calendar year, we're in 2024, is is $253,000 for an American couple, assuming that both have their own income. Okay, it is important. It can't just be one person having the income and then splitting it among the two. That doesn't work. It needs to be both. Okay, and this is the maximum allowance you may qualify for. You may not qualify for the whole amount, but it's the maximum. Okay, so this is for a couple. Okay, for an individual, for an American citizen, if you're single, if you're not married, it's going to be half of that. Okay, that's another thing. So that half of that is like 126,000. Yeah, 126,500 is 50% of 253,000. So you may qualify for that, but you have to apply, and you've got to make sure that you get permitted, right? That you're granted admission, that you're approved for that. Okay, so make sure that that happens too. And if you are a Canadian, and we're working with a lot of Canadians, and they're being dealt a very difficult hand these days because the Canadian government is just making it that much harder to surrender Canadian tax residency. I can give you many examples of people who we're working with, and some of them, what they have to do is they have to quit their job in Canada. They quit their job in Canada. Some people are even forced to sell their homes. They have to cancel their cell phone plans. They have to do all kinds of things. Okay, it's quite complicated actually. And if you have a company in Canada and you want to surrender Canadian tax residency, you may actually have to close your company before Canada lets you go. But there are also more requirements. For instance, before you can really surrender Canadian tax residency, you actually have to get residency in another country. So this is actually the first thing that you want to do. And this is why we recommend territorial tax countries, because in a territorial tax country, you don't pay taxes on overseas income, at least not on most of it. Some of it may still be taxed. So you also have to be careful when you follow the tax code of a different country. So a territorial tax country only taxes its citizens on income that's generated from within its borders. Let me give you an example. Panama is such a country where you pay taxes, say, if you have a local property in Panama, you rent it out, and you have some kind of rental income, then that income would be taxed in Panama. Or let's say you have employment income in Canada, okay? You have a Panamanian corporation and you pay yourself a salary. Then that salary, that income is going to be taxed in Panama, right? In Panama, you have payroll taxes, you have local taxes. So there is a lot going on there, right? But generally, the money that you bring in from overseas into Panama will not be taxed in Panama. And Paraguay is another example like that, you know, where you can go there, you can get residency, and the income that you bring in from abroad is not going to be taxed in Paraguay. So not a great country to do that. It's not as popular because it's located in South America and it doesn't have access to the open ocean, so that's a big disadvantage. But from a tax perspective, Paraguay is a very interesting place for you to visit and consider. Also considering the low minimum stay requirements to maintain tax residency in Paraguay. So Panama, Paraguay, very interesting and popular options. And we're going to talk about the residency here in a moment. Another option that people consider is, for instance, Costa Rica, where a lot of Americans go for lifestyle reasons, retirement, reasons. A lot of retirees go to Costa Rica. Why? Beautiful beaches, a lot of retirement communities. Costa Rica is a great place for that. But what Costa Rica also offers is a territorial tax system where, just as we talked about in Panama and Paraguay, you don't pay taxes on your overseas income. So if you were to bring in, say, a pension, or you have like some kind of check, whatever it is, like kind of business income, you don't pay taxes on that business income in Costa Rica if it's from outside. A different scenario is when the money is generated within Costa Rica, within its borders. That's a scenario when you do pay taxes in Costa Rica. Again, rental income, if you have some kind of employment, blah, 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 that's when you pay taxes in Costa Rica. What about residency, okay? Let's say you don't want to end up like the infamous Michael Saylor, that we talked about at the beginning of the video, where he ended up, being charged with tax fraud. What can you do? And you can go to a country, you can get residency in Paraguay, where you don't have to prove economic solvency. That's great. You go there with your birth certificate, your criminal record certificate. There are a couple more documents that you must get in Paraguay to apply for residency there. How it works is that you bring all these documents with you, then you work with a qualified agent like us. You can work with Nomad Elite in Paraguay. We help you with that. And we handle the whole visa application process for you. We get the power of attorney. We can pick up your documents and inquire information, this and that. And we take you to all the appointments as well. So this is where Nomad Elite comes into play pretty much. That's what you can do. Then another thing that's going to be important is when you want to apply for residency in Paraguay is that you want to have a clean criminal record certificate. This is super important. Like the countries that are very open, where you can get in without proving economic solvency, they typically have a criminal record requirement where you cannot have anything on your criminal record at all. You can't have any like felony convictions, any misdemeanors. You can't have anything on it. This is the case for Paraguay, okay? They won't take you. If you have anything, they won't take you. What you can do in certain cases, in a limited number of cases, and it depends on the country and how long it's been since you were charged, you can actually request to have that record removed, which will not work for a felony conviction, but it may work for a misdemeanor. It may work for that, okay? But you have to try, and you really have to look at the time span, how long it's been, and also the gravity, the magnitude of the crime committed. So consider that. In Paraguay, they're really strict about that. If there's anything on it, you have really no chance. They're not going to take you. In Panama, it depends. Okay, Panama is a little bit more lenient with misdemeanors. But again, it depends on what it is and how far it's been in the past. Probably the most lenient country these days is Argentina, where they only look back a certain number of years and then they're like, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But again, depends also on the magnitude, so it might still matter. Now, if you want to get residency in Panama, then what you want to do is you can incorporate a Panamanian corporation and sponsor yourself, and you get the temporary option first, okay, which is for 2 years. And before it expires, you file the change of status and you convert from temporary residency to permanent residency in Panama. However, there's a contingency if you do the path through the Panamanian corporation. In that case, you actually have to have paid yourself payroll taxes. Otherwise, Panama will not allow you to get that. This is super important. If you go down the residency by company formation part, this option, you have to have paid yourself payroll taxes before you can get permanent residency in Panama. Another option would be to work for a Panamanian corporation, so you become an employee of that Panamanian corporation, and then they're going to handle that for you, okay? That's another option. Or you can always get a student visa, right? Student visas are very popular. They're available in all the countries we're talking about today, in Paraguay, in Panama, everywhere, okay? You can get them, no problem. And another option, as we've already talked about, is Costa Rica, where you can get residency also relatively easily, but the income requirements have definitely become more difficult in Costa Rica because it's become such a popular retirement spot, and because of the mass influx of American and Canadian expats, and specifically retirees, the prices have gone up a lot. And because of that, the requirements, and we're talking about the income requirements, have also gone up. So for you to get residency by economic solvency in Costa Rica, you would actually have to have a pretty good monthly income, okay? So if you just have a social security check from America, then that's not going to work. It's not going to suffice. It's not enough. However, if you also, another thing you can do, of course, but this video is really about taking advantage of tax residency. And to get tax residence in the country, you have to comply with the minimum stay requirements. Costa Rica, Panama, Paraguay, all 3 countries with a territorial tax system where foreign income is not taxed. So this is a haven, okay? If you want to go there and let's say you made your money in crypto, and I know that this video is actually about Michael Saylor, a guy who got charged with tax fraud in the US. So if you're interested in that, I think these 3 countries do make perfect sense. They have really relatively easy requirements for you to get in. Some are a little bit stricter than others, but it's relatively easy to get in. Now, if you're interested in getting residency in Panama or Paraguay, you're welcome to contact us. You can click on the link below the video, and as always, we'd really love to work with you and help you get residency in these countries. If you have any questions about moving to the countries we discussed in today's video, you can post your thoughts in the comments below. As always, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching Nomad Elite, and we see you on the next video.